Okay, hi everyone. This time we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. Instead of going through hands, I want to talk about just a general concept in poker that I think a lot of people greatly underestimate, to be quite honest. You see and hear a lot of people in poker talk about variance and run good and run bad, and everyone kind of knows that they need to play a lot of hands and that short-term results don't really matter. But I want to show you guys just how long term you actually need to play. The results may shock you. They did when I first looked at the variance calculator, but anyway, I'll get into that in a short bit. So, what actually is variance and what does it mean? Mathematically, variance is the measure of spread in a set of data. The higher the variance, the more spread out the data is, and the lower the variance, the more compact it is, or the less spread out it is. Makes sense, right? If you've got, say, a field, and you've got a bunch of daisies, the classic biology experiment, and you counted the amount of daisies, and they were all spread out, then the daisies would be said to have a high variance, or the location of daisies would be high variance. If, however, there were the same amount of daisies, but they were all in one corner of the field, then the variance would be extremely low because they're all in one place. In poker, however, in terms of poker, variance is how much you can expect your results to vary. In its essence, in its simplest explanation, variance is how much run good or run bad you can expect to receive, and a lot of things can change this, right? How aggressive you play, how loose you play, how aggressive and loose your opponents play, etc., etc. So, I wanted to take an example from my most recent episode of my online poker diary, where I've played, as you can see, I've played almost 12,000 hands. I've currently have a big blind per 100 of 6.49, and I've won this amount. And I want to just tell you guys first and foremost that 12,000 hands really isn't a lot of hands. It's a tiny amount of hands, really. And when I say it's tiny, I mean it's not statistically significant at all. This big blind per 100 number here of 6.49 may as well not be there, because, as you'll see in a second, the amount of variance that my play and that this result of winning $15 can, well, the amount of variance it is subject to is absolutely huge. In particular, I want to draw your attention to the standard deviation number that we have here. It's 284.06 big blinds per 100, which, if you've only looked at this for the first time, won't really mean a lot to you, but I can actually tell you it's an extremely high number. Probably a result of 2NL being quite splashy, and there's a lot of all-ins, you get it all-in with ace-king a lot versus like queen-jack suited or even 5-deuce suited as I had at one point, and you're 60% to win, but you're 40% to lose, and if you're getting it all in for 100 big blinds each at a time, then that variance ramps up. It shoots through the roof. So this standard deviation of 284 is extremely high. As a number for comparison, for when I was playing Zoom, 6 max Zoom at like 10NL, 25NL, I played around 75,000 hands on 888 at one point, and my big blind per 100 then was only 75. So at 2NL on PokerStars, in regular cash tables, this standard deviation has almost quadrupled. Like, it's actually ridiculous how much the variance is at these stakes. So, I went ahead and plugged my results into a poker variance calculator. I'll put a link in the description below, so you guys can have a mess around with the numbers yourself if you're interested. I plugged in my exact numbers. I put in my win rate, 6.49 BB per 100, my exact standard deviation, and the number of hands to simulate. I hit calculate, and these are the graphical results. On the left axis here we have the number of big blinds you can win or lose. So here is 0, this line here represents 10,000 big blinds won, and this number here represents 10,000 big blinds lost. Remember, there's 100 big blinds in a buy-in, and here the black line represents the EV, which for our sample represents how much money I have won. So if you look on the end here, the 11,829 hand is where we are, and the various lines mean different things. All of the little colourful lines represent all the possible, 20 of the possible runs we could have had within this data set. The blue line at the top here represents the absolute best run we could have. Like, this is if we absolutely sun ran, and here we would be winning just over 10,000 big blinds. And if I'm trying to get from $40 to $100, that's $60 won. $60 at 2NL is 30 buy-ins, which is 3,000 big blinds. So here, our best run, we are just crushing. We're way over that $60, that 300 buy-in mark, way over that 3,000 big blind mark. We're just way over it. 3,000 big blind is actually where this little light green line is, the 70% confidence interval. We talked about our best line. Our worst line's down here. Similarly, we could just be losing over 10,000 big blinds. That is completely depressing, and I thank God that I'm not down here at the moment, that we're actually like somewhere around here towards the middle. The confidence interval lines, these little curves, the light green one is the, all the samples that are 70% to be likely. It's a way of saying our results are 70% likely to be within, to be between these numbers, around 3,000 and minus 3,000 big blinds. And our 95% confidence interval, the dark green line, that is the all the possible results that are 95% likely to be within these big blind numbers. So about between 7,000 and negative 7,000. I think personally it's much easier to read off here because it actually tells you the exact numbers. So here, I think the 95% confidence interval is the most accurate and most practical one to look at. So we're between 7,000 big blinds won and negative 5,500 big blinds won, basically. Our win rate of 6.49 big blinds per 100 is likely to be anywhere between minus 45 big blinds per 100 and 58 big blinds per 100, which is an absolutely gigantic range. Like, it's basically our big blind per 100, as I said before, of 6.49 basically means nothing. We need to play way more hands to get any idea of an accurate representation of our win rate. So this is why variance is just such a huge thing in poker. It's so huge. You can play 10,000 hands, which to a lot of people who play live and don't play online is a lot of hands, right? I think I saw somewhere on a Brad Owen or an Andrew Nemi video somewhere that they played about 40,000 hands or 60,000 hands, somewhere around that, in a year. And I've played 10,000 in a few weeks. And it just goes to show that the variance that you're subject to is just insane. I just want to take a look at a 100,000 hand sample with the 6 big blind per 100 win rate with the same standard deviation. I just made it 6 because it makes our expected winnings here of 6,000 big blinds a nice easy number. This is double our goal. Remember, our goal is to make 3,000 big blinds, so this is actually double that, and we are still not guaranteed to be a winning player at all. In fact, our probability of loss after 100,000 hands is 25%. So you can play 100,000 hands, and a quarter of the time you will be losing with this win rate. One thing I will say about the win rate is that I think it's really hard to ever know your true win rate. Poker is a game of ups and downs, and you're just going to have to ride it out. So you can never know your true win rate, only what is given to you in real time. But be aware that you can genuinely just have a run bad session of 100,000 hands. Like, you can just be running bad for 100,000 hands at 2NL. You can lose, like, let's say you can lose about 5,000 big blinds. You can just lose 50 buy-ins, and you're having a bad run. Like, that's just the way it is. As a matter of fact, you need to play around 2 million hands of poker with this standard deviation for the results, all of your results, to be above 0. Right? And by the time you play 2 million hands, hopefully you'll be a better poker player by now. So this isn't even representative of your skill. Like, it's just going to take time. The whole point of this little presentation, the whole point of talking about variance, is to just really hammer it home. Like, you just need to play poker. There's no way around variance. You can be the best player in the world and have like a 15 big blind per 100 win rate, but the variance will just crush you sometimes. You'll end up with a 20 buy-in, 30 buy-in, 50 buy-in downswing, and it's just the way it goes, right? So when I release these videos of playing 1,000 hands every time, and I show you the little, like, the short-term results, they are you've got to know they're extremely short-term. They're extremely subject to variance. Actually, if we go back to my actual graph, at the very beginning here, we had a $9 upswing within the first 200 hands. Like, that alone should tell you how much variance there is in poker. In 200 hands, I made $9, and then in the next 11,000 hands, I only made $6. Like, you know, variance in poker is just, it's a bitch. It really is. It's a massive beast that you're going to have to overcome. So, I hope you like this. I did. I enjoyed doing this because I often look at the variance calculator. Again, I'll leave the link in the description for the Prime Dope variance calculator. It really helps to ease your mind with variance and that kind of stuff. Also, mess around with the numbers yourself and with your own data and results and see what you come up with. Catch you later, guys. Peace.